Say kids, what time is it? PDR tool time. All right, what's up, everybody? My name is Mike Toledo. I'm here with John Hiley, Vince D'Alessandro, and Daniel Grom. So today we have a cool guest here. Flew in on the radar, under the radar, Keith Cosentino. What's crack-a-lackin', Keith?
What's going on, fellas? Thanks for having me on your show.
Hey, Keith.
Hey, hold on a second. Wait, Daniel, hold on a second. He wants me to mention something here. Daniel, tell me something, dude.
Yeah.
Why do you have to have so many tools, dude?
Dude, I have to have so many tools so I can make some big money so I can be like Shane Jacks and get me some Gucci shoes when I go to MTE.
All right.
Gucci shoes.
You got to have those Gucci shoes. Look for Shane's Gucci shoes. They're going to be so loud you can hear them coming. Banana yellow or gator green.
Yeah, those are the only two colors you need.
So, how was everyone's day today?
I had a
Anybody
rocking day.
exciting? Yeah.
I did 2 tanks and 5 cars.
Nice. I've been laying low. I had knee surgery on Thursday. So
Yeah. How you feeling there, Vince?
I've been better. I thought I'd snap back and get right back into it on Monday. I have my goal. I'm going to work on Monday. I'm going to shop and I'm going to bust a whole bunch of dents out and everything. And I failed.
Which knee did you have worked on?
The right knee.
Not the middle one?
Not the middle one, no. No, that joint is.
I got the impression that you had like a vasectomy. I don't know why, because you could move. So like everyone was making. I thought you had a vasectomy because you said you couldn't move. So.
No, Daniel's been giving me crap for the past 2 weeks.
Well, he did say that he had a penis extension, if I remember correctly.
Yes, there was something about an extension
or an extension or a reduction.
Was it like girth or whatever? Like, you know what I mean?
It was girth. It was the girth. Yes.
Is this the other podcast you guys do?
No. This is like,
this is the right one. Am I in the right one?
What did Vinny say? Like he couldn't touch the bottom of a tuna can, but he could bend the rim. Is that what it was?
No, usually the water in the urinal is really cold. So I had to get it reduced. Yeah.
Right. You guys want to hear something funny? Like, going back to the restroom, talking about urinals, right? There was somebody that was constantly peeing on the floor here at our shop restroom. Like, you'd walk in there, next thing you know, you'd be splashing around in a puddle.
Was he peeing on the burger wall?
It got so bad. Listen, it got so bad that somebody from the carpet store next door wrote, "Stop pissing on the floor," okay? So long story short, I let a guy go about 3 months ago. And this guy used to get irate mad about it. He'd come out and be like, "Somebody effing pissed on the floor again." And he is irate mad. Well, nobody has left any of these places but him, and the pissing stopped.
Nice.
And I don't know, dude. I mean, he was putting on a show or something. I don't know what was up. So
that's awesome.
God,
one of my workers.
Never to go into your bathroom when I come visit.
Oh, man.
So Keith. Give us a little brief history about who you are and how long you've been doing PDR. And for the listeners out there that don't know who you are, we'd like to do a little brief introduction about your history and whatnot.
Yeah. How far back you want me to take it? All the way? The real boring stuff or the cool stuff?
The reader.
What were you doing right before you got into PDR and that light bulb went off?
Well, dude, I was 19 when I got into PDR, so...
Oh wow, you were young.
Yeah, I wasn't doing a whole lot of anything. I mean, I was driving trucks at warehouses. It's not that exciting. But I'd like all you guys, I'm sure I was a car dude, into cars, car shows, talking about cars, reading car magazines. That was my thing. I think that's most PDR guys, at least, start out that way. But I had heard about this trade because I did some training in high school for standard auto body and like engine machine work. And they didn't really touch on PDR in the auto body class, which I thought was interesting. But then I'd heard that these guys could take these dents out and make them look perfect without painting. And I kind of had to see it to believe it. So by the time I just looked into it out of curiosity, and then bumped into the Ding King down in California, one of their catalogs. And then I got laid off from the truck driving job. So I said, you know what, getting laid off kind of sucks. I'm going to go ahead and start my own business. And I'm going to do this Ding King thing. And I'm going to cut this check. I'm going to get my VHS tape, my stainless steel tools. I'll be in business in a matter of days.
Nice.
So I bought the tools, got the VHS tape, basically showed one dude taking dents out and making high spots in a hood. But I practiced for days, probably like 3 or 4 months. Took my kitchen table out, put a hood from an Escort in there, started banging on it. And I wasn't fixing anything. Everybody knows that, but I got excited about it. And luckily, those tools were actually super legit tools. They could have sold me pieces of plastic. I would have known no different, but I still push with those original stainless Ding King tools. Everybody talks about how crappy Ding King tools are, but I don't know, man. I never broke one of them for 20 plus years or whatever, almost 20 years. So started doing that, but I didn't get it. But I had a buddy who had been, when I was driving trucks, he was working at car dealerships, and he was a porter at a Mercedes store, and they had a legit dent repair guy there. So he gave me his cell phone number. I called him every day for like 6 weeks till he gave me a job. They trained me completely. And then I knew how to fix cars after that. Then I worked for them for about 4.5 years. I became their best employee. Previous to that, I was a terrible employee because all these jobs when you're a kid, you're not nobody a career truck driver. So you're showing up late and taking long lunches. But once I got this gig where I was on commission and I could work by myself, all of a sudden I was a good employee. So I was making a bunch of money there for a young guy. And then that dude sold the company to like a big Colors on Parade guy.
Yeah.
Who kind of owned the whole area. This dude thought, I'm going to get dents and paint and interior. I'm going to run this town. But he overextended himself. So he went belly up, never paid for the dent company that he bought actually. But once he took over, I split. I didn't really like working for him. So I started my own company. That was about 15 years ago.
Now, you've always been in Sacramento, right?
Yeah. Yep. Stayed in Sacramento. So after that, that's when I said the interesting stuff. That's the boring stuff. But after that, I kind of worked on my own for a while, just thinking I'm doing great. You're by yourself. You got some dealership accounts or one account or whatever, and you think you're doing great. You're working till 3 o'clock every day. And then I started getting online and meeting all you guys. You guys were all old school guys that were online too, right? So you start seeing what other guys are doing around the world. And I figured out I'm pretty good, but there's some guys that are really good. So I got to get to know these guys and start figuring out what they're doing. So then we all became pals and started trading notes. So my skill level went up. I learned about tools that I didn't know about before, because how else would you know about them? They're out there floating around the world, but you don't get a chance to see them until you network with other guys. So once I got deep into that, I kind of just went ballistic and started getting really good. I thought I was probably going to be one of the best guys in the world. Went to the Dent Olympics with plans to win it. That did not happen. I figured out I'm really good. I'm probably the best guy in town, but there's another level for these guys that win. They are talented artists. These guys could all sculpt and work with wood and all this kind of stuff. So I'm not there, but I'm close enough that I'm happy. And once I made all those connections and I started getting serious about it, I made an important decision for me anyways. And that was, I guess right before that, I was making good money, like, I don't know, $100,000 or something like that for a guy who was 20 years old. I was happy, but it was not a ton of money. Right. So I was still thinking maybe I should get into mortgage brokering. That's my buddy's killing it over there being a mortgage broker. Or maybe I should get into, this other thing that my buddy's into. And I thought, man, I don't know if I should do this at this time, because what do I got to do? I got to ditch the skill set that I know and go start from scratch learning something else. So I thought to myself, are people still trying to get into PDR? And the answer is, of course, yes. People are trying all the time to get into it.
Oh, sure.
So I decided I'm already an expert at this. I'm better than anybody in town. So I'm going to stay here and I'm just going to figure out how many different ways I can monetize this skill set. I didn't know what that meant at the time, but I knew like I was all in for what I already was an expert at. So with that mindset, you could do training or just grow your company bigger or whatever, but there's more ways to skin a cat than just pushing dents with your own hands. But that mindset is what led me into starting a tool line. So I started making some tabs that we didn't have in the industry, and we didn't have really good tabs for pulling creases. So I started working on that. That was the Black Plague creased tabs with the big plastic tabs with big bolts in them. That was my first product. And then I had success with that and then started developing kind of a traditional tab line, sizes and things like that. And then from there, I met my partner, Shane Jacks. I'm sure a lot of you guys know him. If you don't, you can look him up. But he actually did win that contest. He is one of the best guys in the world. And we partnered up first we had been friends, kind of sharing notes. And he was a really good tech, but his prices and his selling strategies were kind of stinky in comparison to mine. And he was actually starting to chase hail. And I said, he had family, he had kids that he loves and a wife, and he's going on the road to chase hail a couple of times a year. And I had questioned him and I said, Shane, why are you leaving to go chase hail? And he said, man, because I can't make the money out here in South Carolina that you can make in California. Because at that point I'd done a really good job of getting my prices really high and making good money.
Don't you hate when you hear that from guys?
I love it. I love it now. But
yeah.
Because I know I can teach them.
But it's their mindset.
It's totally their mindset. And here's the statement I made to him that closed him, that made him start seeing the light. I said, Shane, how much does a brand new Mercedes S-Class cost in South Carolina? And whatever the number is, doesn't matter, because I said it's the same exact price here in California. It's the same car. It doesn't matter if it's here or there. And the same thing with the repairs. It doesn't matter if they're here or there. It's the same. The money is hiding in your town and it's hiding in my town. You just have to find it. If you think the prices suck, it's probably in your mind.
That's a great metaphor.
It is. And he got on board and I helped him get his prices up higher. So once he won that competition, we decided to go into business together and kind of share these strategies that we've used to grow our businesses, up to what I refer to as the top 5% of the industry. So we started a podcast called the PDR Collage Podcast. And that's where most people know me from now, because we've been doing that for, 133 episodes just went live yesterday. So a couple of years, every week we put a show out. And we talk a little bit about techniques and tools, but that's not really our wheelhouse. Really, we're talking about selling strategies and marketing and mindset stuff to kind of get your money up. Because you can have all the best tools in the world hiding in your truck, but if you can't sell a dent, they're worthless to you. And they might help you get out of there faster, I guess. But you're not going to make the money that you want to make. So that's kind of where I'm at now. We started a community for our podcast and junk like that. And we do a seminar, what we call the Advanced Skills Seminar, once a year, right adjacent to the Mobile Tech Expo, where we bring in as many talented guys as we can. Daniel is actually going to be there with us this year, teaching motorcycle tank repair and a bunch of other guys. And we help educate people through that. But that's kind of my deal now. The service business where we fix dents, that still runs. I got a handful of guys working for me. My tab and tool business and the PDR College business.
So on the tab thing, how long did it take you from deciding to make this tab to actually having it in customers' hands?
Oh, hey, I want to mention something real quick before Keith answers that question. I have the first prototype of that tab.
Yeah, John was on my list. We'll get to that strategy too.
Dude, Keith.
Nice.
But it's so funny because occasionally I break it out and show my students and show them what this started as and then what it became. And it was like a chopped down piece of PVC, and Keith didn't have his logo on it. He had a little square piece of paper that had the Black Plague on it. Yep. And it was taped to it with a little piece of tape. And that thing has lasted, dude. Your logo branding on that tab, and I use it with the piece of clear tape over it, has lasted, dude. But whenever
Johnny, I don't skimp on the tape.
But when me and you talked about that, I was like, Keith, I was like, I love what you got going on here, man, but it's got to be a little bit more refined, man. And then he came back with what he has there. But go ahead.
Yeah. So, we could talk about that for a second, because how long did it take before it was an idea, or from an idea to in the customer's hands? To be honest, I don't know. I don't remember exactly how long that was, but my recollection is probably about a year from plain idea to finished product. Because with the plastic product, if it's going to be made with an injection mold, which mine are, that's kind of a big deal. There's a lot of work that has to be done to plan that mold, then to execute it, and then to get it processing right, then package and ship. So that timeline is long. But
now, how much R&D time did you give in that year's time? How much would that be in R&D?
Time-wise?
Letting people to try to destroy it and do whatever.
3-4 months maybe. First, I try I made sure it worked for me before I send it to anybody, because I don't want to send John and Mike a piece of paper mache so they can tell me that it's garbage. I want to make sure it works for me first. And then once I think it's great or close enough to great, I'll send it to everyone else. And you're going to figure out, if this is your business, you're going to try to make tools, you're going to figure out that people will break your stuff in ways that you never would have thought yourself. Because when you create something, you know where the strengths and weaknesses are, and you just naturally work around the weaknesses. But when you hand it to somebody else, they don't know anything about it. They just put the screws to it and break it. So you're going to find out where it breaks. So that's why I sent it to guys, first of all, guys that I knew were good technicians, and guys that I knew would give me a worthwhile response, and guys that were going to actually use it. So I probably sent it to 6 or 7, 10 guys and said, hey, just do what you can with this thing. I don't want to give you a million instructions. Just try to use it, see if it works for you. Give me some feedback. And
and even with that, there's so many different techniques with the PDR that you never. What you do is completely opposite of how someone else does it. So they could break it in a different way that you would never break it.
That's right. I've learned actually, as a kind of a detailed note about that, my products are glue pulling products. Some guys are super brutal when it comes to glue pulling, and some guys have more of a finesse style. I'm a kind of a finesse guy, but some guys just glue everything on there and rip it with the biggest slide hammer. And it's not wrong. They still fix dents quick and clean, but it's just a different style. And it's not mine. But those guys were breaking stuff a lot faster than I was.
Nice. something interesting that you said there. You were trying to like reframe a timeline of like when the idea came to you, and all that kind of stuff. Now, all you guys have heard me talk about the Miracle Morning that I've been doing for like 480 some days. The crazy thing about that is I'm actually seeing the effect of, I started a journal entry on day 1.
Oh, cool.
And so now I've got 400, I want to say 85 journal entries. And I thought it was neat the other day because I scrolled back to the day. You can put a little photo of whatever's going on that day, of the very first day I came up with the tactical tool idea. And I was able to read my mindset at that time, which is very, very interesting, because you're sitting there thinking, wow, I mean, just 4 months ago, that's exactly what was going through my mind. And now look at the progression. So just something cool for you guys to think about out there.
And I would assume that you had MTE in mind, because you brought it to MTE that one year. And
yeah, that's actually a pretty funny story, because the first year prior to MTE, I had the prototypes and I knew they worked. So I got with an engineer, because I'm not one, and I wanted to make a legit product that wasn't a homemade prototype. And there's no knock against a homemade prototype. That's the best place to start, because it's free, because your garage. And if you're handy enough, which I am handy enough, but I'm not a machinist, so none of my stuff was really super awesome. So I got with an engineer. He drew a set of tabs with my direction. So that's when they took on the look that they have now, is partly from me and partly from the engineer. I said, make it like this. And he said, well, I can make it like that, but with less plastic and stronger. I'm like, I don't know, man. I want it to look like this. But I went with his advice, and we were better off for it. So anyways, those were being made in China, because this guy was an expert in sourcing stuff in China and like going over there, setting up factories. So we got with this project. I was excited. I'm going to get these things made in China for 3 cents a piece. None of that stuff comes true, but they make them, but it's going to be like, it's months before you get it. Sometimes they put it on a boat and it takes forever. If you fly it, it's like 10 times the cost. So it came down to literally, I was either going to get them the day of the MTE or the day after. So I didn't buy a booth, because I don't want to just stand there saying, you guys, seriously, guys, I have an awesome idea. I wanted to sell them something. And I had never done any trade shows or anything like that. So this is back in the day when we were all still kind of online every day together, goofing around, talking about nerd out on dent stuff, as I call it. So we get the stuff shipped to the hotel, and they still don't even have the screws put into them. So I'm in my hotel room, like drilling out the tabs and driving screws into them. But since I didn't have a booth, all I had was a backpack full of tabs, and I was just taking around and showing them to guys. It really wasn't even for sale. I just wanted to show them to guys and hopefully get them into one of the tool stores, because at that time I didn't even have I didn't have my own website to sell them on. Well, apparently there's something that's called suitcasing a trade show. I didn't even know this was a term. And that means you don't buy a booth. You just show up with your junk in a suitcase and try to sell it to people. And I didn't know I was ruffling any feathers. I just thought, hey, this is a cool place where there's lots of dent guys, and I have something they probably want to see in my backpack.
Yeah. So that and your flyers too. You had
Yeah.
flyers.
I did have
Yeah,
flyers.
me and Vince got a ton of flack for that.
Yeah, we did.
So you were one of the notorious suitcasers, man.
I was, man.
Hey,
I actually
No, it was you,
And
It-
Sal.
Sal,
That's
and,
right, I
and-
remember
and-
that
No,
year.
hold on, 2 more people, right? It was you, Sal, and I'm trying to, and this isn't throwing anybody off the best because me and Vince, like everybody, like, come on over to our booth.
Yeah, we're
man.
like, yeah, come on, let's do
But
it.
we didn't know we were gonna
Sal
get.
it over
We
here.
had no idea it was wrong. You know what I mean?
right.
So
We were all new to
it was-
that scene.
we had Sal there, you, Anthony Spencer, and Carl Stuckey.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Maybe you know what? Hey, what do you guys think of this idea? We should just buy an extra booth and call it the suitcase booth,
Okay.
and then anybody
Hey,
can go there.
we could
and
rent
sell
it.
out the-
Dude, we could rent it out to suitcasers.
yeah,
Get a little
rent it out by
side
the
money.
minute.
I think I lost my free booth after that last year, dude.
Oh,
I had-
that's right.
It was
After
there
that-
was one more year, and then it was gone.
Yeah.
I actually called Kevin and apologized to him and said, listen, I didn't even know this was a thing. I just take dents out of cars and I'm trying to learn this other business. So can I pay you some money or whatever? And he said, no, just, next time, do it the right way. So I did. The next year I got a booth.
Yeah.
But it was pretty funny. You can break some laws without actually knowing their laws or customs, I guess you could call it. But
Yeah, backpacking. That's what you were doing, right? So,
what'd you say?
backpacking.
Backpacking. Yeah, it's not suitcase. That's for chunks.
That's not suitcase. No, backpacking, man.
But like you said, you didn't know. None of us.
None
knew.
of us.
I
None
knew.
of us do. No.
We're just dent guys, and we have a booth, and we're happy to share it. And like, come on in, let's sell everything right here.
Yeah, hang out here.
I actually, Keith, I did that too back during NACE. My first NACE, I had a bunch of tools in my backpack carrying around, but the next year, like I think everybody starts off like that, and then the next year I got a booth.
Yeah.
So you got to start somewhere, and
They almost should have a program, not just at MTE, but for trade shows for guys that have one product or an idea that they pay a few $100 extra and they have the right to walk around and talk about it. You're not going to set up a booth and
You
sit
know-
there if you're just trying to.
Well, the
set a-
thing is, at a concert, at most like big outdoor venues, like some of the ones I used to go to back in the day, they actually did have that. They had a mobile vendor type deal where you paid a couple $100 and you could get a permit to walk around and sell things out of your backpack. So
Yeah, I was having a flashback 2 years ago. It
Yeah.
was 2 years ago when Kaz's son showed up with all his tools, the crazy snake-looking tools.
Oh, I didn't even
And,
see that.
yeah, he was walking around. I'm like, oh my god, he's gonna get in trouble. But I better not associate with him. We've already gotten in trouble for this. I got all nervous. But he ended up hooking up with Dent Technology, and he was showcasing his stuff at Dent Technology booth.
there was somebody suitcasing last year, wasn't there?
There's always someone, but
Everybody.
I think it's the same thing. You just don't know. You
how
don't
does
know that-
Vince D'Alessandro care about getting in trouble, dude? Like everywhere you
Yeah.
go, you're causing ruckus, man.
I know. I know.
You, I don't see how that bothered you, but okay.
Well, if I know it's trouble, then I guess it bothers me. If
Oh,
I,
It
so you
finds you,
just
right?
accidentally glue people's stuff to a bar.
That- dude, that
right?
was
You didn't
totally
know that
harmless.
that was going to be like, bad? You didn't know that was
No, no.
bad?
no, not at all.
Oh, man.
I was showcasing Carl
Well,
Stuckey's new glue gun.
You did use fresh balls, and that's something that was made from, that you put on your balls from a dent guy, man. So
I did.
you do live on the edge. You thought that was okay, too.
So,
Anyways,
let's
move on.
That's good.
Yeah. Let's get back to
So,
something.
so Keith, I kind of want to get guys excited about going to MTE, and for those guys out there that have never been, why should they think about going?
Man, a lot of guys have asked me that question. Well, usually the guys who ask that question are already dead set on not going. They think, this is retarded. And they say, like, when they talk about the Dent Olympics, they say things like, I get paid to fix dents, bro. I don't pay to fix dents. They don't understand the mindset. And the reason that we're all 5 talking today on a podcast is because before it was cool, we were all working hard in the evenings to network with each other and figure out how we could be better techs and make more money. And if you're interested in that, that's what the Mobile Tech Expo is all about. It's not just going there to look at tools. That's actually, for me, that's a really small part of it, buying tools. You could buy all the tools you want online. There's nothing there that's available that's not going to be online or already is. That stuff that's new will be online in 5 days after the show. It's not that you have to go there to see the tools. It's nice to hold them. But what you can't get anywhere else is that personal interaction with other technicians from around the world, mostly the US, but from around the world to find out who they are, what they're up to. I mean, if you chase hail and you're not going to the Mobile Tech Expo, you're a straight up fool, in my opinion, because that's where you're going to network. You can network with 300 guys every single day for 2 days and build relationships that you're actually going to make money off of. For local guys like me, I just think it's awesome to have friends like you guys and a bunch of other guys around the world who are doing the same things I'm doing, but slightly different. So when I have a weird situation or something like that, I now have guys just like you in my Rolodex that I can call and say, hey, Mikey, when you're dealing with this, what do you do? Or, hey, Daniel, on this motorcycle, what tool to use to get in here? It's because we met at the show, we became friends, and we formed a friendship, and you network with other guys. On top of that, there's all the seminars and the training, the formal training. But to me, the major benefit is networking with other guys in person and building out your network of buddies, your friends.
Even meeting your competition, and making friends with your competition and whatnot.
Whose networking style I really liked the most last year, in all honesty, the one I really, really digged was Josh Denton Jones.
Why do you say that?
You guys didn't see his networking style? You didn't hear about it or anything?
No.
We talked about it on an old podcast. He's the guy who went and almost attacked Tom Price at the pool and then took off into the bar and whipped out his junk in front of everybody.
Oh, right.
Hey,
we chose to forget that.
Listen, no.
There's some shenanigans that go on.
No. Like, seriously, Josh Denton Jones, though, he's posting pictures, man. Everybody knows him now. He's working hail gigs all over the place, man. He went out. Hey, I don't care what anybody says. We've all had that night where we've went out somewhere and we've tore the town apart and we pulled our junk out and we've gotten a fight with a friend, and then we woke up the next morning and had to apologize to everybody. And who knows who we woke up next to?
John, we have not all had.
It's a mystery. It's a mystery night, man.
Hey, Keith, just let him think that.
Hey, if you guys haven't had them nights, y'all haven't lived.
Woody falls into that. No one knew who Woody was until he showed up in Days and Dukes.
Correct.
That's totally true. And same with Wade. He hasn't.
Wade.
He kind of laid low the last year or two, but Wade used to come with something shaved. He shaved DoorDing.com into his chest one year for a free meal or something like that.
TDN tool cart.
Yeah.
Logo.
Last year we were actually going to glue pull some of his hair with a slide hammer.
Oh my God.
Oh, that would have been good.
With some Black Plague tabs.
Right. That's a good promo.
Now, did you guys see him at the PDR Nation dunk booth when he was up there for that?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh, dude, he was making people, he had a way of harassing people in a funny way while they were trying to throw that ball to dunk him, to where he had Tony Anatelli like screaming and just chucking that thing. And he finally
John, you're going to get in trouble again.
Oh, did I say Is it Antatelli? It's Antatelli, right? It's Antonelli! He had to yell at me one time about that. I kept mispronouncing his name. So,
all right. Let's I got something to say, Keith. I've actually been using your Gangrene tabs, and I find that I am actually grabbing more of the creased tabs than I am any other tab, especially the skinny ones.
I know those are good, aren't they?
I do have just one beef, which you probably already know.
Yeah, I do know.
I want you to say it to me so everybody knows publicly.
All right. So Mike is one of those guys I talked about earlier that has a really finesse style of glue pulling. He's very particular about how he works. And the Gangrene, I should have some here to show, but the Gangrene crease tabs have an oval head instead of a round head like every other tab. Kind of like
let's go. Somebody pull it up. Go. John, take.
I'll do better than that. I'll go get some and bring them back while you guys are talking about them.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So just like the Atlas Titans, those were the first tabs to have that design, and I used that as inspiration and came up with a thicker head, because when you're putting some of these big crease tabs on, they stick really, really well. So some of the round heads, when these guys who like to hit them with really hard slide hammers over and over, they would have but they have the ability to break the heads off. So I said, okay, we need to widen up the neck, because the neck is the piece between the top of the tab and the business end of the tab, the little skinny neck. That's the weak point on the tab. So making the head an oval allowed me to make the shaft an oval, which increases the strength like 300%. So now that tab won't break, and it'll fit in 95% of the lifting devices out there. Thanks, John. That's what it looks like.
Hey man, what y'all doing to me? You did me
Oh,
dirty
right
here,
there.
huh?
I'm showing the
It's showing
smooth
it
tabs
on
right
the
there.
website, which I appreciate. blackplaguepdr.com or deadrattabs.com. There's my shameless plug for my website. But Mikey does not like the fact that that oval head is on there, because with whatever lifter he's using, doesn't quite go all the way into the center line of the neck. So he's stopped a little bit short, and he feels like he's not pulling it
So
Well, that's not just, hold on. It's not just that. It's just like, let's say if a crease is going sideways like this, and then I can only hook up, with turning it to that, you know what I mean? And slide it that way instead of
what lifter are you using?
like your round tabs. I use them all. I use all my lifters.
The Kiko pass through works great, and you can pivot that head. It pivots.
Not,
you don't have that problem.
I do have that, but it still doesn't give me the angle that I want. You know what I mean? Like,
I know what you mean.
The feet, sometimes I need to pivot the feet.
Yeah, you want the feet pivoting, but there's only a couple of sizes that will do a 360 inside the lifter. The longer crease tabs, didn't matter what the feet or head are, they're not going to go obviously around, because
don't get me wrong, it works great, Keith. I mean, that's just my pet peeve. That's all it is. You know what I mean?
Mike, are they still making you money?
They're making me good money. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's why
we're making some good tutorials off of them too. So
awesome.
People are learning. Everyone's making money. Let's put it that way.
The skinny crease tabs were made because I was taking my traditional flat crease tabs and grinding down the sides and making a skinnier version just at home. And
I did that a lot.
I know it works so stinking well. Like a few guys, Daniel, you, and a few others, after I'd done it, you guys sent me messages and said, hey, you should think about sanding down the sides. So I knew that I wasn't the only guy with that idea. So I said, you know what? I just need to make them like this.
You know what's funny about that, Keith, is I sent a prototype just like that to Steve at Ultra. And I said, hey, I want crease tabs like this. And that was like 5 years ago. And he sent me back some tabs, and they were wide. And I'm like, no, they need to be skinny.
Yeah, he sold it to me for $40.
Yeah.
I just took some toenail clippers.
Yeah. No,
Well,
they
before
were
that,
great.
I used to take my Worth tabs, my oval Worth tabs.
Yeah.
And
Grind those
cut the
down.
wings off of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you cut the wings off, and you have a nice crease tab. I have not had the pleasure of using your Gangrene tabs. I'll have to get online and.
Be
I
careful.
know about your reputation of not buying tools.
Yes, I'm a cheap bastard.
You have to give them to him. So, and Keith,
Speaking of which, I finally got it in the mail.
oh, I heard some flack about that. I heard about that, Keith. I'll be giving you one on the next batch.
And I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll like it. I think you'll like it.
Right.
What's funny is,
And keep in mind,
that-
guys, keep in mind when you guys are talking that we're also going to be podcasting here. So what they're talking about, what Vinny was showing there, was Mike's newest wooden paddle. That's phenomenal. I've been using this thing. I mean, the weight is perfect. It's one of the nicest wooden paddles I've ever felt. What are them things, like hand carved in Guam or something like that?
They are made out of special hardwood. Very, very good. Very dense wood.
And
Right.
They're heavy.
Yeah.
There's leather on one side.
Like,
which,
Mike, where can them be picked up at now? Are you selling them on Dent Time, or what's up with that?
I haven't put them out because I don't have them in stock myself anymore. I sold them all out privately. So
Right.
then Ultra bought all of them. So the rest of them. So you can buy them at Ultra Dent Tools right now.
It's funny. I had a student in last week. Sorry, Vinny, but he was using that, man, and I had to call Mike and ask him, like, you know, he's and I don't think Mike had him out there yet, or he didn't know where he was selling them at. But that's a good thing to know. I mean, because he got like totally addicted to that thing, and he had to leave it with me. You know what I mean? You know how you've been using something for like a week, and you have to leave it. And he was like holding on to it a little bit, like my precious. You know what I mean? And he was like, he was almost like, he's like, I can't take this. I'm like, man, I didn't say you could take it. What do you mean you can't take it?
Well, I'm surprised on how heavy it is, Mike. I mean, this is heavy. It's a small, it's 12 inches long, maybe.
Oh, that's perfect weight, man. All you dent guys using them light hammers there.
That's what I mean. Well, it's like I'm so used to getting blending hammers that are lighter, and this is not light at all. This is solid.
Well, I got to get you on, Keith, so you can join the club.
All right.
So.
I'd like to be in that club.
Did Shane mention it to you? What do you
He
think?
really likes it. He from a guy who uses like nothing but his hammer, he likes that paddle. That's the first one he's ever used, and he's a fan.
Cool. Good deal. I'll send it over to you. I'll get you. I'll ask what grip you want, because I make different grips if it comes from me. It's so you get a different grip you choose from. So
I'll go with the camel clutch.
Camel clutch. Okay, there you go. So going back to your tabs, Keith. So here's the deal. I find now that I'm using more of a crease tab than I do the round tabs, because I don't. Maybe you can give me some input. Why do your crease tabs seem to pull harder than the round tabs? I've been getting. I know that, and a lot of other people out there are telling me the same thing.
Yeah. So to answer that question with a little backstory will make more sense. So the original set of tabs I came out with, traditional tabs, I'll call them, were my smooth series tabs that were gray. And those tabs purposefully had a very thin, I call it the face, the part that you glue to the dent. I call that the face, and the part you hook your slide hammer onto, I call that the head. So the face of the tab was very thin on purpose. And the purpose was, you don't want to snatch up a big giant pull on a relatively small dent. You don't want to make a big old mound and spend half an hour knocking it down, but you do want to pull the center up. So by making the face a little more flexible, those tabs were able to snap up the center of the dent and not make a huge mound out of it and spend forever knocking it down. So that works awesome if it's the right kind of dent. But sometimes you do have a stubborn dent that you do want to snatch the heck out of, and you just want something to pull as hard as it can. So when I came out with the Gangrene, I made that face a lot thicker. So those thicker tabs pull harder, and that's great. A lot of the time, it's not always what you need. Sometimes you need more of a controlled pull. But within that line of the green tabs, the green round tabs have a traditional style, a post for the neck, and then just a round flat bottom, like almost like every other tabs, more or less. But the crease tabs have a totally different construction. They have that big oval neck that you don't like, which makes it really strong, and then the big rib that goes along the whole tab. So that tab is an engineered little shape, and it's super strong because of that. So when you just put glue in the middle of it and treat it like it's a round tab, it's the strongest tab we've got for pulling that size. It just so happens there's an extra tab surface that you're not using that'll pull the crease. But if you put the glue right in the middle and just pull it like a round tab, the reason it's pulling harder is because it's the strongest thing that we've got, short of those big Black Plague monster tabs.
Yeah, well, I'm really happy with those crease tabs. I pretty much use them constantly on a lot of my stuff. So good job on that.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
All your tabs have different applications, but do you find that a certain type sells more than the other?
For sure. Yeah.
The grays, the greens, the big daddies. What do you got?
It's more like the sizes. The sizes that are most popular are 12 millimeter and 15 millimeter round tabs. Because those tabs will fix basically an entire hail car with those two tabs, unless you have one weird stubborn dent somewhere. But on kind of moderate, easy hail, those are the only sizes you need. So hail guys tend to buy more tabs than a route guy. Guys like Benny are cheap. And you're not the only one. You know, they only buy the tools they're going to use. So they don't need 100 12 millimeter tabs. They just need one or two of each, which we have a set that's like that called a variety pack. But within our individual sizes, those are the most popular. And then the new skinny tabs in either the 38 millimeters, which is about, I don't know, an inch and 2 inches or so. Those are really popular too. Those
in green or in gray?
In green. The skinny ones are only in green.
Gotcha. Okay.
Keith, what's the smallest one? Sorry, Daniel. The smallest one, is it the 9 millimeter?
9.
Those things pull tremendous for any small diameter. Now my technique for those is I put a little glue on, put it on, and I'm popping within 3 to 5 seconds, because I find that the longer the glue cures, the weaker it gets on those tabs.
That's completely true and correct. The reason being is that when you push that tab down, and when I apply those, I put a lot of pressure because I want a super thin layer of glue between the tab and the dent. But when you get what you want and really thin layer, there's hardly any glue underneath there. So you've got a big metal heat sink on the back, which is the panel. And by the time you get that tab shoved down there, it's already cooling down so fast, even if it's warm outside, that if you hang around and talk for a minute and grab whatever you're going to pull it with, it just comes right off. People tell me these don't even stick.
Boom. Yeah.
No, they stick, but you gotta. If you're working, you better be working and not screwing around. As soon as you lay that tab, you gotta go and pull it right now.
Yeah.
And
What are you doing, John?
they pull
Sorry.
like crazy.
Oh, nothing, man. Yeah, I was just mimicking
Yeah.
what you were doing there.
So now with the glue, tell us a little bit about the science of glue. I mean, you came out
Yeah.
with a great glue. Everybody loves the glue. I love it. That's pretty much what I like using. But what is the science behind glue?
So the glue you're talking about is Tab Weld. That's our line of glue. It's like a gray color, and we came out with that because when I started glue pulling, I was using clear Walmart glue. That's what I used because it was easy to get and it worked. And everybody said, "Hey, man, you got to try red and green and yellow." And I thought, man, that's a bunch of crap. How good can that stuff be? This stuff works. I work with it every day and I fix dents with it. I don't have any complaints amidst glue pulling. But so I was resistant to try other glues. But eventually, when I started selling tabs, I thought I better know more about glues because guys are asking me questions. So I started using different colors, and some of them were crappy for sure, but some of them are really good. That cactus green glue and that pink glue. Out of those two, I like the green 10 times better than the pink. But that glue was really good. But it wasn't great when it got hot, and it wasn't great when it got cold. So just like with my tab design, I have ideas and desires, but then you've got to get people who are smarter than you involved in your project, or it's not going to go anywhere. I mean, all of us are talented guys, but we all have our sphere of excellence, and they're you're pretty small. You're an expert in only a couple things, but if you can't be an expert in everything, I think, and as an entrepreneur, as soon as you realize that, you're going to be better off. You realize what you're good at and what you're not, and then you bring experts on that are better than you. So when it came time to develop a new line of glue, I did a little bit of research, but I got the people who knew what they're doing, who have built glues, and I said, here are the properties I want. Here's what I don't want. And they sent me a couple compounds to test, and then we finally settled on this one, and that's what I went with. So it's just like the engineer with the tabs. I said, this is exactly what I want. And he said, that's great. You probably want to think about doing this and that.
Okay.
Point you in the right direction.
What's the optimum temperature you should have your glue gun set to
For tab weld, right?
Yeah.
for tab weld?
It's a tough question because not all of your glue gun has a setting. If it has a low, high setting, it needs to be high. For the few guns that do have the potentiometer on them for temperature, somewhere around 220 seems to work the best. Any hotter than that, and the glue will kind of boil. It'll look different when it's coming out, and then it's too hot. And if it's too cold and it's coming out and it's not liquid enough, it's not viscous enough, it's not hot enough. So you want it to the point where it'll run without boiling.
Yeah, because that Black & Decker glue gun, everybody started talking about. I got one, but it doesn't get hot enough.
That's what I've heard from a couple different people. Yeah,
It barely comes out of the gun.
Daniel, point your camera down a little bit, dude. You're
Sorry.
Hey, well,
Thank you,
this is tool time, and we do need a Wilson. So, maybe Daniel can just do the old Tom Price, where he was on that interview with you, Mike, and he was clear down here by the yeah. There we go.
I started kicking back.
So anyways, I was
That was Tom Price, dude, and he was like, I was wondering too, like, why didn't Mike say something to him? You know what I mean? Hey, dude, you're getting a little low in the chair, man. I mean, he just kept on sliding down.
Yeah, did you see that interview, Keith?
I did not see it. No,
It's on YouTube. It's funny, man. He
It
keeps
is.
sinking down lower and lower, and I was like,
It is.
I was like subconsciously knowing it, but I didn't say nothing to him.
He didn't want to interrupt the flow of the interview and like break
it was-
Tom's
But
I listened to it. I think.
well, going back to your glue, Keith. I mean, what I noticed right off the bat between other glues, with yours and other glues, the way it lays down. Like when you bring it out of the glue, it doesn't just spill like everywhere. It's more like a rubber layout. You can actually put it on your crease tabs, and it just lays out nice and even right across without just overflowing everywhere.
Yeah, it's not real watery.
It's not lava. You know. What I
No.
mean?
Now, do you? We're not into promoting anyone in particular, but do you use a Carl Stuckey glue gun? Do you use the one right from Home Depot? What is it that you use?
So-
you find works best
Good
with?
question, Vinny. Good question.
Yeah, so Carl's been nice enough to send me his guns to test and try as he's come out with new ones, and I love them. Here's the problem I have with it, and it's nothing to do with Carl. It's with or the gun. It's with me. The battery lasts so long on it; it'll last like 8 or 9 hours of use that you feel like it's never going to run out. So I never charge it. So I use it for the first couple of days, and then I go to grab it, and it's dead. Finally died 4 days later. So I plug in my gun, and I just off my mind. I don't plug it in at night. So I'll go weeks and weeks without the thing charged. When you're working, you kind of get into a groove of doing things. You get a new tool, and if it doesn't stick right away, it kind of falls in the back of your box and you never use it. And that's kind of where I've ended up with the cordless guns. They're great if I can remember to charge them, but when I'm done at the end of the day, I'm done. Actually, I've envisioned building in my truck a universal charging station that I have one cord that I plug in when I park in the garage that charges everything at night, and then I unplug and take off with everything live. But I've never actually done it, but I would like to do that.
I could totally understand that from a mobile tech standpoint. 3 of us have a shop, so literally with the Carl Stuckey gun, you just keep it plugged in and
Yeah.
unplug, do it.
And that's the cool thing about that gun too. It'll run by itself without being charged. You can just fire it straight up off the
Yeah.
cord. But the gun I end up using day to day is the Tech 305. It's a European gun. And it worked so well that I started carrying it on my site. It wasn't the other way around. I liked it.
That's the gun I like. Yeah.
Yeah, it always works. I've never had it break. I've warranted like 2 of them out of the few hundred that I've sold. So it's really solid. I bought them all, the DeWalt, the Arrow, the hobby cheap ones.
Yeah.
And none of them were great. They all leaked or were crappy. But that
Yeah.
Tech
You
305
know what's happening now? John's going to get his glue gun. He's got to show off his skanky,
Crusty old
ugly,
thing.
crusty. Look at this glue gun. It's so awesome.
It's the best. It's been around for 10 years.
probably
it
one of
looks-
those Stanleys.
Yeah. There it is.
Here we go.
John, what do you got to show us? Come on. We can't hear
Where'd you
us.
go, John? Where'd you go?
Where'd you go, John?
Oh yeah. Hey, look,
What are you
I
gonna show
actually
us?
want to show you guys this right here. So you guys were talking about charging stations, and I redone mine here. So for all the video people out there, this right here is a
Oh, that's
Tech
cool.
Life converter, and that has plugins all the way around it. It also connects with your USB cords. So it's by a company called Tech Life, but that's my charging station now. And
cool.
just having it organized, because before this, everything was just scattered everywhere. And I had part of it was on the ground, part of it was up on that table. And just by getting that organized, man, it's like such a relief every time I walk over
You
there.
just told us your tech tip.
Yeah, John, where's your glue gun?
I was going to save it for the tech tip, but so for whatever reason, you guys must have been calling me out while I was gone. What'd you do? Tell everybody I went to the...
No, I thought you were going to go get your skanky glue gun.
Yeah.
Oh, I can go do that too, man. Yeah, she's a skank, but she's a good one.
Yeah, so the Tech 305 is the gun I'm using day to day with the Carl Stuckey gun that I get out for hail or prolonged periods of repair where I'm going to be in and out, back and forth from the truck. I don't want to.
Hey, you know what? I want to put a shout out for Carl Stuckey and James Lee. Those guys are friggin' on it when it comes to warranty and issues. Both those guys, I've had little tiny issues with little things, and they get back to me. They send me a new switch or whatever I need. Those guys are good customer service.
They are.
Yeah,
Both
they're
are good.
great. Carl actually will, when you buy something on his site, he'll charge you whatever it costs to ship. And then when they ship it, if it's less, he's sending a refund out. And I'm like, Carl, you don't need to send me a refund. I already agreed to pay $25 for shipping. He's like, it wasn't that much, man. I send you the money back.
Well, it's called integrity.
Yeah.
That lasts a long time in business and life.
And we're talking about it.
Right. Got him on the show.
And
Yeah.
Carl was the first guy to bring a cordless glue gun to the technicians and try to make it available to everybody in the world. And I really wish, as a fellow tool manufacturer, I wish people would patronize the guys who work hard to come up with all this stuff a little bit harder. There's a faction of us as technicians that will just go after the lowest priced item They don't care where it comes from or who's knocked off somebody, which happens a lot, unfortunately. But if you care about the industry, you want new stuff to keep coming out, you got to support these guys because they're not millionaires. They're not making $500,000 selling glue guns. They're making a living.
Yeah, we said that. We agree.
We cover that.
We had a whole series about. Well, John Hiley he went crazy off of it. So.
Well,
yeah, I'll go crazy too. I'm maybe not as crazy as John, but I get pretty fired up.
Well, see, I was kind of going like a little bit wild about all these people like copying people's designs to the T. You know what I mean? It's like what? You can't go out and think of your own design. You got to exactly copy somebody else's to a T and launch it. I mean, that's like theft of somebody's idea and then going back into an industry and selling it. It's like, don't buy a knockoff. I mean, because the moment you start buying knockoffs, you kill the person who innovated it. Okay? Because
that's right.
Because now there's no reason for this guy. I mean, if
he killed his drive to want to innovate more.
Well, you know what? That happened to me back in '94 when I started making tools. I came up with a bunch of different designs, and then all the other tool makers started ripping me off. And it was funny is I remember one company I brought out a prototype. I showed off a prototype, and they copied it. Well, the prototype, I ended up changing it because there were some things wrong with it. And they sold that prototype. They didn't change it. And they kept on selling it. They didn't know better. And I got out of the tool business because of that. Now I got back in because you got the internet and you can publicly shame somebody. And I think it works for you.
I went on a big rant about this on the PDR Collage Podcast too, and what I was thinking is, man, if you're gonna rip off somebody, why don't you rip off a product that sells about 7 million units a year? You know, if you're gonna copy something you can sell at Walmart. Why are you copying stuff you can sell to 1,000 dent guys?
Yeah.
And everybody knows you. Like everybody, we all know each other personally. Like the people who are ripping other guys off. And if we don't know you yet, if your rip-off product is popular enough, we're going to know you in a second. So pretty good chance you're going to see the guy face to face who you ripped off, and he's going to take your hammer and break it on a hood.
And one of my big points was the fact that all you guys that are coming up with these tools, it's not like you're retiring off these tools. This is like just a sub income for you guys. You're still pushing dents. You're still doing, whatever it is in your personal life to make money on top of dents. It's not like Carl Stuckey is not out there pushing hail or yourself or everyone. They're
completely true.
James Lee.
It's
Lee
all
is not shipping out his lights from his.
It's really the drive, enthusiasm, and you're right, Keith. We should patronize, get everybody, support everybody. Don't copy each other. And if somebody does copy, everybody should unite as a whole and says, "Hey, stop that, you mofo!"
Or at least go to the guy that originally designed it and say, "Hey, I got a modification here that can make your product better. Let's go to terms. Give me a percentage or commission off of it." And if you're looking for money, if that's the case, but to blatantly rip someone off is just wrong.
Are you seeing any of your tabs being copied already, Keith? Like China, eBay, anything like that? Have you seen that?
You know what, Mike? Nothing yet. Knock on wood. Well. Yeah, I mean, for sure, but nothing that's really got me worried. The Aussie tabs are a complete knockoff of the Black Plague tabs. But listen, I wasn't the first guy to come up with a smooth tab. Blem tabs were smooth before I even knew I was going to make a product. So I never complain about the Aussie tabs because you could make a case that I ripped off Blem. My tabs are completely different, but they are smooth, and that was one of the differentiating factors with mine. So I'm not going to – here's how I look at it. The people who are copying me, they're copying my old stuff. I got new stuff all the time that I'm working on, and they don't see that until it's already out in the market. And by that time, I got more new stuff coming. So you can keep copying all my old stuff if you want, but nobody's going to get them in mind and take out the new stuff.
So you are working on something new.
Yeah, you're always working on something new.
Yeah. I think it comes down to the creativity, because what we do is very creative. And tool designing is very creative.
It is. It's fun.
I think that's the part that's enjoyable. The selling of the tool, not so much.
What drove? Go ahead, Mike. Sorry. Go ahead.
When I I know there's I've got the idea of the paddle. I mean, technically, I saw what was it? PDR Finesse have one, but before that too, as well. Gosh, what's crazy? What's his name? Wade. He had one that was given to him, and it was personally made. But that wasn't the factor. Like, oh, I'm going to make a paddle. It was, I'm going to make something that's cool that I would like. That's personal. You know, like.
Right.
We all know that you can't do a dent without your favorite tap down or your favorite hammer or your favorite thing. This was personal to me. And when I created it, it was something out of passion that I wanted to do. I knew I wasn't going to be $1 million. I'm not trying to get rich off of it. Matter of fact, I don't even know how long I'm going to be doing these paddles until I like it. That's basically what it is. That's how PDR making tools, how PDR is. It's all about passion.
And see, currently my drive for making, the new hammer here, I actually brought it out because I knew sometime I was going to be able to show it here. And this is the Zombie Killer edition right here for all you people who are watching the video there.
The rated R.
These will likely be sold out by the time you hear this podcast, so I got a limited number of these. But I wanted something that looked bitchin' on my cart that functioned in a way that I just didn't have. Nothing had this certain tilt that allowed your wrist to relax while you was blending on rails. And I wanted something that was multifunctional. I wanted something that improved my life on a daily basis. And I also wanted something I could put my signature on out there that I created. I looked at, seen all these people that inspired me, like Keith and Mike and Daniel. All you guys are such a great inspiration. And I'm looking around and I'm like, where's my thing? And that's where I actually came up with the tool design.
Now we're even inspiring Vinny.
That's right.
Yes. I think that's the thing is like, this is huge, bigger community, whether you want to be in it or not.
But there's no other industry like ours that does this. Can you guys think of another industry that does what we do, make our own tools? And
I'm sure there's something out there that's similar.
I can't think of anything.
Well, it's because we're not in it.
I think our industry is very unique, and I think it's cool that we do that.
It is super cool.
I mean, really? Yeah, it is cool, man. It's definitely unique compared to like the roofing industry and some of the bigger industries. We're in that happy medium there, and it's very interesting that companies like our denttrainer.com, where I think we caught on the kind of like the growth arena of this industry. Because we're just seeing technicians sign up all the time, and we're getting emails from these guys saying that what we're doing here for them is life changing. Especially the guys that get trained, like Keith was talking about how he got trained out. Watched a video on the Ding King. Some of the guys that've been around to the other video sites and things like that, they get on denttrainer.com, and they're sending us an email out, and they're getting a hold of us at the Mobile Tech Expo, getting photos taken beside us. Because they're telling us that we changed their life. You remember that? You remember the few of the guys that came up and told us we changed their life at the Expo, Mike, with Dent Trainer?
Yeah. That's part of just giving back. That's basically what it is.
Well, and that's it. And we had to make people don't understand. We had to make a monetary gain on this because you can only give so much back. You can only give something so good to the world without being compensated for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
to a point, you can do something for so long for free. That's just the way it is. But Keith,
Mike, I think if there's a crown to go to the king of giving away free PDR information, you get it, buddy, because you were doing in-depth videos long before it was cool, putting tons of time into editing and putting information out there for free forever. So I know guys watch your videos worldwide. You probably have the most PDR video views of anybody in the world, but so there's a lot of guys that would say thank you, but I'll publicly say thanks for all the guys who are not on the podcast with you.
Hey, cool. Thanks, Keith. Appreciate that.
Hey, he's the
Thanks,
one.
Mike.
Thank you,
Thanks,
sir.
Mike.
He's the one that
Thanks,
taught.
Mike.
Hey, he taught me everything I know about videos.
I'd like to say, Keith, during your journey of creating these products, obviously you had to have the passion behind it because you wouldn't be able to get to where it's at now. What kind of advice would you to those others out there who are thinking about maybe creating something? What are some of the things advice you would say to them?
Well, to somebody who's thinking about making a product, I'd say it's definitely worth it. You should make money if you don't make money, you'll learn a lesson about business. But I have two podcasts that I do, and one of my other podcasts is also a business podcast. We were just having this conversation the other day about margins, and you need to have a really, really healthy margin. And some people would argue with you that, hey man, you're ripping people off if you're making something so cheap and selling it for so much. But it's actually the opposite, because with a healthy margin in your company, you can do a lot of things. You can do promotions, you can do advertising, you can do free education to people. You have options because you have money. But if your margin is razor thin, you're one disaster away from going out of business, and you can't help people. If some guy orders something from you and you make $2 on it and it's a $50 item and it's lost in the mail, are you going to send him another one? You're going to lose $100 and, $104. You're not, but if you have a healthy margin, you can send another product out. You can make him happy. If he doesn't like it, you can give him all his money back and you're not going to lose your business. So super healthy margin is the number one lifeblood of any product if you're going to keep making it. So you got to keep that in mind when you're starting. But if you've got an idea that you think you can make, start off without spending any money would be my advice. Minimal money. Try to make some prototype yourself. And if you can get something close that's working for yourself, great. But then once you get to that point, then you got to flip the switch and you got to start pouring money at it, or it's never going to get done. So it's kind of like conflicting advice, but try to ferret out your idea while spending almost no money. Like, don't build a website, don't get an LLC, all the stuff that you think is going to help you, but it's a waste of time, business cards and stuff, shirts and hats. Don't do any of that crap. Make sure you can get the product working. And once it's working, then pour money at it to make it right, get professionals involved to manufacture it to a degree that you would be happy to buy it yourself. Then you got to pour money on marketing it. And that's the biggest part. There's a lot of products that you guys all know about that, and I know about, that are great, but nobody talks about them because the marketing sucks. So once it works and and you make it well, then you got to shift gears again and start marketing it well, because if nobody knows it, it doesn't help anybody.
Good. That's right. Sound advice. We like that.
All right. So now we moving on to our tech tip section, y'all. Wonderful advice there, Keith. I mean, that actually that does qualify as a tech tip, but we'd still like to get another tech tip out of you.
No, I got a special tech tip.
Okay. Let's hear it.
Cool.
I got the show notes.
Yeah.
I get to go first as the guest. I get to go first. This is exciting.
Yeah.
So on the PDR College Podcast, we don't do a ton of technical stuff. You guys do a lot more technical stuff, which I appreciate. But our kind of focus is the business and making money and selling. And just like I was talking about earlier, with all the tools in the world, with all the tech tips in the world, they're not going to help you make more money until you can get those appointments and get in front of those customers. So my tech tip today involves working on the phone. It works for in person too, but mainly on the phone is where I teach this lesson. And I've broken it down to 3 C's. And I call this connect, clarify, and close. So this is the process that you're going to use when you're on the phone with a customer or in person, but usually you're on the phone prior to being in person. So the way you follow this little system to help you close more deals is first connect. Before you start talking about your business and how great you are and how much your repairs cost and all that stuff, you have to find a way to connect with that prospect so they can connect with you as a person. So you need to ask questions, and because they're not going to give you anything. So ask some questions, try to get to know them a little bit, even if it's a one question or one line. If they tell you the model of the car they're working with, or the town they're from, or what they do for a living, something little tip that they drop, you got to pick up that clue and try to connect with them at least on some level. Then you want to listen to what their problems are and ask them some questions about what it is they're dealing with. Everybody thinks we fix dents for a living, but it's really not the case. We just make people happy. Sometimes they want the dents fixed so they can sell the car. Sometimes they want it fixed because they're crying in the garage. They can't go to sleep. Everyone's got their own issues. So you got to let them talk, find out what their issue is, and then clarify back to them what that issue is so that they know you understand exactly what they're dealing with, and clarify that you have a solution that's going to work perfectly for that problem. And the third C is there because if it's not, you're just going to get off the phone without doing anything. The third C is for closing. So you've connected, you've clarified the problem and that you have a solution, and then you're ready to close. You've got to close for an appointment aggressively, because some people will just hop off the phone and say, well, thanks, that's all the information I needed. You've got to reel them back in and really make a concerted effort to get in front of that person and get that appointment, because without an appointment, you don't have a repair, and without a repair, you got a bunch of expensive tools that are doing nothing for you. You've got to get in front of people. That's where the money's made in this business. And that's where we've seen guys make the most gains, is working with people, because there's really talented technicians all over the world, guys that are knock your socks off, but they've never been trained on how to interact with people, how to sell, how to close. So they're making a quarter of what they can make. We've had guys double their income just without changing any of their technical skills, just by working with customers in a more effective fashion and closing harder. So connect with them, clarify, and close for that appointment. That's my tech tip.
Cool. I think
Good
that's
job.
I think it's very important, because a lot of people are still afraid, even though you own a business, you're afraid to talk to people, and communication, understanding what the customer's needs are.
Or they do step 1 and 2 and they forget number 3.
You guys want to hear something? Hear something interesting about my scenario here at the shop? Is like, people come in here and I'm typically so busy that I really don't try to close them at all, and it's almost like that my closing rate has went up because of this. I don't know if you've noticed this phenomenon, but it's my mindset. I'm like, all right, well,
That's
here's
called
your
the
estimate.
takeaway.
I mean, here's your estimate. And like, they feel that I don't care if they want to schedule an appointment. I have no emotional tie to like scheduling them right now. And all of them are like, well, can I please make an appointment? I mean, could you at least stencil me in for like a couple weeks from now? And I mean, that's what I get all the time, but I don't try to close. It's as soon as I stop caring, it's like people are closing the deal for me. It's amazing.
Yeah, when you get to a certain level, the tables turn a little bit, and when you have a lot of,
they feel it, dude. I'm telling you, it's almost like people know if you don't have money. Look, I'll tell you, here's my tech tip, y'all. I'm going to jump in here if you guys don't mind. I'm going to jump in here and throw my tech tip. Save your money, because if you don't have any money, you'll be lucky for what you get, okay? Now, if you got a nice little stash sitting back here, you're stacking chips like Keith Cosentino over here, like
Cosentino.
Cosentino over here. If you're stacking up chips in your basement like him, $100 bills around you, people are just like, they know, you know what I mean? You ain't going to kill him. If you don't sign up for the $200 ding, he's not going to go broke tomorrow. But if you are going to go broke tomorrow, if you don't get that $300 deal, man, I don't know. I mean, people smell that out on you. You know why I know that? Because when I first started doing this, I was that guy.
A broke salesman stinks. And you can't hide money, Johnny.
Okay, Vince, you're up. What do you got?
I got nothing.
Oh, man.
Move on.
How about you, Mike?
We crushed him, Keith.
Yeah, I think we went long enough, dude. I got some, but I've told you I got a bunch saved up, so I'm not going to go today.
I got a short one.
I feel like I just won a rap battle.
Yeah. I got a short one. I'm going to go.
I don't have anything worthwhile.
With your mom's spaghetti. The M&M stuff.
When you're going into the Keith's little scenario there, also think about keeping that customer for a lifetime. How do you create a raving fan from your customer? And that's what you want to do, is you want to collect a bunch of raving fans of your business. And if you go into dealing with the customer with that mindset, and also think about how much money you spend on advertising to get that customer. Well, the next time that customer comes back, did you spend any money for that customer to come back? No. So keeping a customer for a lifetime is way more important than getting new customers, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me ask you a question since you're on that subject, just real quick. I know we're running over, but how would you keep that customer? Are you talking about email based? Or are you talking about, sending them
you know what?
What
I do? I do little
doing?
extra things. I go, you know what? I polish, and it's stuff that I normally do anyway, but I make it sound like I did something extra. Yeah. I polished that scuff off that dent for you. I went ahead and I had some touch up. It was the right color, so I went ahead and touched that up. Or a lot of times what I'll do is I'll polish their headlights for free. And I don't call it a polishing, I call it a cleaning. I cleaned your headlights for you. And I take a little compound, put it on the polisher, and I do a really quick job and then clean it off. And I say, this way you can see at night. It's a little bit safer for you. And doing those little extra touches makes a big difference.
I go through their trunk and I fold all their stuff.
Daniel tries to see if they're strippers and stuff like that, in their trunk. But hey, can I just add something to do what Daniel said? I think this is so important, and it came through to me when he was talking. Something else I want you guys to understand, that you want to create a raving fan, a raving customer, then I'm going to tell you this: shut your mouth and listen to them, okay? People spend their entire life walking around with nobody listening to them, and you don't know, you could have the best conversation with somebody and just asking questions and getting to know them, okay? Throw your ego out and just sit there and legitimately get interested and legitimately listen to them. And I mean, I'll tell you what, when they leave there, they're going to feel refreshed just by your presence.
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys. What Keith said and what Daniel said, 30% of my business is repeat customers. 30% is repeat and referrals. And it's making that customer experience, establishing that you're different. You're giving them, you're going above and beyond. And I love it when it's what saves me during the slow times is the repeats and the referrals.
Absolutely.
If things get slow, it's hey, there's Joe coming back in. And like Keith said, when that customer comes in with that Geo Metro, oh, you got the best car in the world. I love the Geo Metro. It was so good on gas.
God.
I make some type of point to their little POS car.
You got rid of that useless fourth cylinder.
Man, I can't say nothing.
And I pull that all the time. Every car is my favorite car. Every car of my customer is my favorite car, whether or not, it might not be true.
Well, since we're on the business aspect, I do got one. I got a tip, and it's so simple and it works every time. And it goes back to doing reviews, getting referrals, just being a good company. Do your job and do it right. That's it.
Yeah.
If you remember,
integrity,
do your job and do it right, the best to your ability. Even if you're not the best tech, do it with 100% effort and go out of your way with a little bit what Daniel said. Get to know your customer, communicate with the customer, do everything that you're supposed to do. But the main thing is do your job and do it right. That's it.
I love that, Mike. I love it, buddy. So we're going to go ahead and close out this episode. And if you'd like, you can also take your customers for a ride in your Corvette. That tends to win them over as well. So,
hey, Keith, I want to thank you for spending some time with us on our podcast here and gracing us with gracing us with your philosophy and good wisdom and your tools and all
yeah,
your
that's good.
you put out there for our industry.
Yeah, it was a blast. I appreciate being invited on. I didn't mind having the limo wait for me for an hour out there. They're going to have the air conditioning going, so that'd be nice.
That's good.
we only send the best.
It gets pretty hot up in Sacktown up there, right?
It sure does.
all right, Daniel. So what is it, buddy? What do you say?
Level up your tools
And join the revolution.